Fasten your chin strap and put your pads on. Get a grip on the bat, here comes a fastball. We ain't going one and done, we're here to last long. This the top of the standards, get ready to blast off. Alright, let's do this. Bang! Bang! Every Sunday afternoon, big sports fanatics coming out your speakers like a piston running with magic. Game time status good to go is automatic. Ready for the blowouts and the instant classics. Calling all the teachers, all the fathers and the mothers. Calling all the kids, all the sisters and the brothers. Dynamic high schoolers in the game like no other preseason. Game 7s, hey, y'all know we got it covered. From the finals to the Super Bowl to the World Series to the Stanley Cup final. Over here we spit it clearly. Andrew Hale and Jotham Israel coming with the hottest topics. Hey, you know what's up with sports. People wanting it, we got it. Yeah, get in the game. It's the top of the standards, man. Get in the game. It's the top of the standards. Yo, get in the game. It's the top of the standards, man. Get in the game. It's the top of the standards. Come on. Get in the game. It's the top of the standards, man. Get in the game. It's the top of the standards. Yo, get in the game. It's the top of the standards, man. Get in the game. It's the top of the standards. Come on.
Yeah, top of the standards. That's what it's about, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, season 2 is here, baby. Yes, Jotham Israel and Andrew Hale, we're back and better than ever. Yes, we got a ton of sports to talk about, as always. And yes, I can rap. I produced the song, I wrote the lyrics, and I rapped it. That is my voice. Yes, you guys better believe it. But before we get started...
Have you ever wanted to create a podcast? Well, if your answer is yes, then download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started right now. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Here, let me explain. It's free. Yes, free. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many others. Yes, you heard that right. It's that simple to get your voice heard around the world right now. There's also creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer to truly make your podcast perfect. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And lastly, get this, you can make money with no minimum listenership. Who doesn't like money? It doesn't get easier than Anchor, so again, head on over to your phone's app store and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Wow, my entire life, I've grown up with the sheer fact implemented into my mind that the Browns are a bad team. My entire life, they have always been at the bottom of the league. No team, in my mind, had been worse than them. So, even last night, during the game, I caught myself out loud saying, the Browns suck, after a Pittsburgh Steelers interception. That's how much I'm used to the Browns being a terrible team. I literally said they sucked when they scored. That's how I think about the Browns. But after last night, well, my perception on the Browns and their entire franchise and their history has completely changed. How about you, Jotham?
That's 18 years of frustration pumped out in 14 minutes of football. That is let me repeat. That is 18 years of frustration pumped out in 14 quick minutes. That was the most one-sided quarter of any sport, not just football. That is the most one-sided period of any sport I have ever seen at any level. Pee-wee, Pop Warner, college, high school, pros. That was the most one-sided period of game time I have ever seen in my life. And you know what? It was the most satisfying I've ever seen it. It was the most satisfying.
Dude, I 100% agree. After that fumble over Ben Roethlisberger's head, I was like, what just happened? What just happened? Is this actually going to go right for the Browns for once? And it took a little bit. I got a little bit nervous, and I'm not even a Browns fan. And that, you know how exciting that game was for me. I'm sure for you as well, and probably most of the entire NFL, other than Steelers fans, of course. But
of course,
I was ecstatic, dude. I was so happy. I finally got to see a Browns victory. That opening quarter and the entire game was just so entertaining. I mean, usually blowouts, some people don't find them entertaining. I love blowouts. I love when teams just run up the score, pull out all the offensive tricks and weapons. I love it. I love it so much.
That's the second best thing to me. Right below, obviously a close game and the team that I want wins and in the same finish. But right below that is when the team that I want to win absolutely murders the team that I am not rooting for. I mean, literally, you can't tell me that the entire NFL was not rooting for the Cleveland Browns outside of Pittsburgh. I'll say even some Eagles fans, just because of the interstate rivalry between the Steelers and the Eagles fans. I'll say that the entire NFL was like, I want to see the Browns win just to see the Browns win.
100%.
And not only did they win, they absolutely just pumped the ketchup out of Heinz Field and just folded the Pittsburgh Steelers into a hamburger and sent them to the offseason, sent them to Grubhub, go drive yourself home back to your homes. And it was just like, is this real? That was the one question that I asked myself the entire game. Is this real life? I was pinching myself. I couldn't believe it. Oh my gosh. Dude, as big of a W as this was for the Browns, I don't know if it's more of an L for the Steelers. I mean, this is division shifting. This just changed the entire complexion of both of these franchises completely.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point. And real quick, before I go off of what you just said, I want to say sorry to the fans for our NFL playoff special didn't record correctly. And just know, if you looked on social media, you saw that both Jotham and I picked the Browns. So I don't know. I think that's obviously our best pick in 2021, I should say.
Man, that's as bold of a pick as it can get. I mean, like literally, the Browns were not supposed to win this game. By the rules and by the logic, they were not supposed to even come close to winning this game. No head coach. You didn't even have an offensive line coach. Did you see how Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb were running all over the Pittsburgh Steelers? That offense, you got to give credit to the offensive line for holding it down. No coaches for them whatsoever. And they still went out and balled. Your special teams coordinator is your head coach. And I'm just like, is this real life? And I thought to myself as the Steelers were trying to come back, okay, this might be the effects of, not having your head coach and, having other coaches that don't have experience in these, certain situations. But you know what? They held it down. And I was thinking, maybe they're taking their foot off the gas a little too much with this prevent defense. But you know what? They held it down. And their offense kept answering. They kept answering the bell. If Nick Chubb didn't score that touchdown off that screen pass, we would have been on my nervous system would have been on life support. Because I was really getting nervous in that third quarter. I'm like, Cleveland, please, you were up 28. Please, don't blow this game.
And there's so many questions after the game, like what does Ben Roethlisberger's future hold? I personally, he did not look good last night. I know he had like 500 yards, almost 70 pass attempts. But you got to look at the interceptions, right? He did not look good whatsoever. But and Mike Tomlin, the questionable, punt, dude. It was 4-2, right? Or was it 4-1?
It was 4th and 1. At like the yard line.
Yeah, it was 4th and 1, almost at midfield, probably a little bit ahead, and they decide to punt and switch all the momentum back to Cleveland sideline. That may be one of the worst play calls that I've ever seen, because that single-handedly lost them the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, that really did blow their chances. I mean, look, you were down 35-7 late in the first quarter. I mean, the first half. You come out, you score, you get yourself a field goal. Okay, maybe we're still in this. Come out, Cleveland punt, Pittsburgh touchdown, Cleveland punt, Pittsburgh touchdown, Cleveland punt, and it's just like, okay. Do you see the pattern, right? Cleveland just punted the ball 3 straight times. Pittsburgh got 2 touchdowns out of that. This is the third time around that. This is their third possession. And okay, 4th and 1 at the Steelers 46. Okay, you literally had this team on their heels. I mean, you literally turned it around. a whole lot. And you put your punt team out there on 4th and 1. That's the first flag. I was like, wait, what? Right in. So I'm like, are they trying to draw them off sides in punt formation? That's the first thing. I'm like, and Drew, keep in mind, their acting head coach is a special teams coordinator. Why would they jump off sides? That doesn't make sense. He is literally the special teams coach in default. Why would you think that they would jump off sides if his group of guys are out there?
Dude, it was so questionable, and I think because that was at the beginning of the fourth, right?
Right at the beginning of the fourth quarter,
and it was interesting to me because at the final seconds of the third quarter, they actually did try and draw him off sides, and I was like, "Come on, Browns! Come on, you don't jump off sides," because that's exactly what they were trying to make that Browns defense do, and they held tight and they did not jump off sides, and they ultimately, the Steelers ultimately punted, and that just propelled the Browns to a win, and I can't be more happy to say that I finally saw the Browns in the playoffs and win a game. That's so cool. That's so cool.
And hold on to a lead for Brian Gallo. Wire to wire.
If the Lions got up in the playoffs 28-0, I would be shaking. Dude, I was like, they're not going to hold this. And if that were the Lions in the Browns situation last night, I'm calling it right now. The Lions would have never held that lead. It would have been over.
Well, I mean, sometimes you never know. Franchises' perceptions can be, turned around in an instant.
Exactly.
The Browns is the Browns, right?
They sure are. They sure are.
What a win, man. We'll talk about their matchup against Kansas City later, but dude, obviously a lot of things to talk about with Wild Card Weekend. Bro, Baker Mayfield's not the only guy in the AFC North that validated himself. Lamar Jackson finally, at least for one more week, silenced all of his haters about, he can't win the playoffs. He can't win the play. He just beat the team that beat him last year, and it felt so good for him. It must have felt so good.
Yeah, and to be honest, he kind of single-handedly carried the Ravens yet again, this time to a win. But after his, 50-something yard run, the game was over.
Yeah,
the game was over.
40-yard run, basically.
Over.
I was like, that's all the momentum gone. Titans were up 10-0. I'm like, this is not looking good early. Lamar Jackson's gonna have to do something, because people like to say, as soon as this man goes down double digits, game's over. Nope, he shut that narrative down. He shut down two narratives with one good game. He shut down the I can't win playoff games narrative, and he shut down the I can't win a game down double digits narrative. Wow.
Exactly. Dude, it was so good to see too, because he really showed why he was an MVP last year.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it's great because he had over 300 total yards from scrimmage. People want to say he had 500 last year, and they still scrutinized him. And people are like, "Well, Lamar Jackson didn't do that much." Okay, he did enough to win. As long as you do enough to win the game, and this is the playoffs, where stats don't really matter all that much unless you win the game. If not, your season is over. Okay, and the thing about this is that I figured that the Ravens would win because they know what the Titans do best. They've lost to them 2 times in a row in the span of the last 365 days. They know that Derrick Henry is the key for their success. The key. If they get the running game going and Derrick Henry is going, you're probably not going to be able to stop them for 4 quarters, because then they get the play action going. Then, Ryan Tannehill isn't forced to drop back and pass like he was on that last sequence of the game. And look, Derrick Henry only had 40 yards on 18 carries. That's subpar for him, for his standards, especially against this team who people are like, Derrick Henry is the daddy of Baltimore. I don't know. This is not. I'll tell you what. This is definitely a hot rivalry again. If it wasn't last year, it is right now. It is a hot rivalry between the Ravens and the Titans. And if this game is not on prime time next year, I'm going to be hot. Okay, I'm gonna be hot.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if they play next year. Do they?
I don't know, but you know how. But there are spaces in their schedules where they allow like one conference game that draws the best interest or something like that. That isn't in the schedule rotation of divisions and conferences and stuff like that. If that is available, Titans Ravens should be number one on the list. Okay.
Yeah. I
Without a
agree.
doubt.
And for the fans, obviously, you guys weren't able to see our playoff special, but Jotham remembers I had a very tough time picking this game, especially because
Oh yeah.
it was, in my opinion, it was 50-50. But the one factor, and you picked the Ravens, right?
Yeah, I picked the Ravens,
See,
but
I
it took a lot too.
I know. I personally picked the Titans. I picked it for their their run game, and they couldn't get anything going. But I honestly, I wasn't as confident when I picked the Titans due to the fact that they've kind of been struggling for a little bit, in my opinion. I mean, they had that loss to Green Bay, which, I mean, it was kind of expected, but it was kind of a blowout as well, and that blowouts usually tend to lower morales of teams who have been pretty good all season, and then they win barely on a field goal against the Texans the last week of the season, which I was like, that really isn't good for, again, momentum, morale, whatever you want to call it, and that's why it was very tough to make this pick, because, again, it was 50-50 in my opinion.
Yeah, although you got to say this, Titans defense showed up for once.
Yeah.
I mean, Titans defense, they showed up against Lamar Jackson, and it wasn't like Lamar Jackson had, the absolute best day on the planet. He only scored one touchdown. I mean, and the Ravens only scored 20 points. And it's funny because the Titans, I believe, were the highest scoring offense in the league. And this Baltimore Ravens defense absolutely just shut them down after they went up 10-0, had them on lock the rest of the game. A.J. Brown had that, what people think is questionable, touchdown. It's just like, after that, Ravens defense had them on lock.
Yeah.
And they couldn't even win with Justin Tucker missing a field goal, which I haven't seen that in that situation ever. I mean, I've seen him miss an extra point against the Saints, but I'm talking like regular field goals. I had never seen him miss a regular 3-point field goal in my life.
Yeah, and that was weird too. I noticed that as well. Before he missed that one, I could tell that his kicks were kind of hooking towards the goalpost, and ultimately there was a kick that he missed. And it was, like you mentioned, defense for the Titans. That was very interesting to me as well, because I believe they had the lowest number of sacks since like the 60s in a season. And they showed up. They definitely did. They showed up, but ultimately their offense couldn't do enough to keep them in the game.
Yeah, it's sad too, because you know how good the Titans can be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like that one, it's like they live and die by Derrick Henry and his running game. And if you don't get that run game going, then I mean, relying on the passing game, look, they got some threats on the receiving end. They have some really good receivers. A.J. Brown and Corey Davis, that's a decent receiving corps. But Tannehill is not going to win throwing 50. Well, I mean, he didn't throw 50 passes, but he's not going to win the game throwing the ball the majority of the game. They got to beat Derrick Henry.
Like you said, they live and die by Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry has a bad game, they're probably going to lose. If he has a good game, they are probably going to win. That's 100% what we saw in the playoffs last year, and that's why they were so successful beating teams that were supposed to win.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, Tannehill threw 26 passes, and Derrick Henry got 18 carries. So, you usually want Derrick Henry to get more carries than Tannehill has to throw passes.
Yeah, 100%.
Because usually Tannehill's passes, they are first down, touchdown, deep shots, especially off of the play action too, man. Because that's really what they feed off of. They draw attention to Derrick Henry, and then Tannehill feeds off of the fake. You saw it in Houston on that last touchdown. Everybody went after Derrick Henry. Tannehill, it was nothing between him and the pylon. And that's the thing too. I mean, them and the Texans, they're gonna have some pretty good games in the next few years if Deshaun Watson is still in Houston somehow, but we'll get to that later. So the Nickelodeon game. Well, this was the most boring game of Wild Card Weekend in terms of just the actual game on the field. But in terms of the marketing, this was the most interesting game on the field.
Yeah. I would say I watched the fourth quarter on Nickelodeon. I watched most of it on CBS with the sound off because I really couldn't care less about that game. I didn't like either team. This and the Rams-Seahawks game were the two games that I couldn't care less about, and I think both of those proved why, because they weren't great. This one especially, dude. If the Bears could have converted on that long, deep pass in the end zone and early in the first quarter, the game would have been entirely different. If it wasn't for that drop, the game would have been entirely different, and who knows, maybe the Bears would have been able to pull off a win. But after that, it really started to go downhill. I mean, honestly, the Saints didn't impress me either. I think both teams were kind of lackluster in their performance. I've said it all year, I'm not really a Saints believer, and I think they proved why, because I don't think their offense is as good as it has been in these past few years. I know they've lost some close ones to like the Vikings in the playoffs and some heartbreakers, and I think back those past few years they've had a better offense. This year it kind of seems almost like, I wouldn't say unbalanced, because Drew Brees did get hurt earlier in the year, which I think kind of messed up everything. Then having Taysom Hill in there and then having to go back to Drew Brees, I think it kind of messes up the flow. I wasn't impressed by either team.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints are just inconsistent. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, they're starting to get a little inconsistent. I mean, the loss in Philadelphia really was an eye opener, to be honest with you, because, you know, I mean, even with Taysom Hill as quarterback, they really couldn't get anything going, and it was just like, huh, what? Against that team too, the team that you saw game 256. Just tanked the season. So yeah, that was obviously odd. I wasn't really impressed by the Saints either. It took them a while to get to 21 points. It was 7-3 for a long time, and I'm just like, geez, man. I mean, Nickelodeon, I would have thought they would have had to use the slime zone more for the Saints, but I was just like, geez, this is terrible. And I mean, yeah. So as for the actual game, look. You can say that the Bears season was filled with what-ifs. A lot of what-ifs on both sides, both negative what-ifs and positive what-ifs. What if Jawims caught this pass? What if they didn't come back against Detroit? What if they didn't come back against Atlanta? What if they didn't go on that 6-game losing streak? What if they would have beat these teams? What if they would have beat these teams? What if they would have beat that team? What if they would have made this play, that play? What if, what if, what if?
And that has been their motto for the past few years. I mean, what if you draft Deshaun Watson? What if Cody Parkey hits that field goal? Like, that, literally, that has been the Bears' motto. And kind of, if you look up the Bears, that's gonna be the definition. I mean, what if is literally a title that the Bears should have.
Yeah. Now, one positive thing that we can take out of this season is that we found our long-term kicker.
Hey, there you go.
One positive thing that Bears fans, if anything.
Wait, no, I got another one. Mitchell Trubisky won the MVP. See, you know, Patrick Mahomes, he's won a Super Bowl. You know, Deshaun Watson has won a college football national title. And, you know, Mitchell Trubisky has won an MVP, a Nickelodeon valuable player. Congrats.
Nickelodeon valuable player. Well, if that's his last game as a Bears, at least he went out a lopsided winner. The voting wasn't really that close. And I'm slow. No, look, seriously, Drew. I'm sitting here looking at the game, looking at the voting progress throughout the second half. And by the way, this was my first time watching an entire football game with my little sister. So, and obviously it took Nickelodeon to do it. But still, she actually had a blast watching the game. It was funny. She actually clowned the Bears. Like Noah Eagle was like, if the Bears can do this, maybe they can come back. She's like, no, the Bears suck, Jotham. I'm like, damn. I'm like, why you say that, sis? Jotham, I've heard enough screaming. I'm like, okay, point taken. So yeah, that's that. But when they said at the end of the game, Mitchell Trubisky had 49% of the MVP votes, and the nearest Saint only had 8%. I was like, there's a lot of people that need some football knowledge because this is
the
immaculate.
only way I could see how that is accurate is that all these kids that were watching football for the first time were kind of, there I would consider a lot of, talk about Mitchell Trubisky and, his, kind of infamous career so far. That's the only way I can explain how he had such high votes, was that he was getting a lot of screen time and a lot of kids were impressed with his work ethic, never giving up.
Oh my gosh. So let me get this straight. 19 for 29, 199 yards, 1 touchdown at the 60th minute.
Garbage time.
Most of his stats were garbage time. And that 99-yard drive was that was the last drive of the game where nothing mattered anymore. So his stats got padded big time.
Yeah.
What a joke.
At least the kids, again, were impressed with his work ethic.
Wow. I will say this. Jimmy Graham's touchdown was poetic justice.
Oh, yeah.
Caught the ball, went straight to the tunnel.
I was just about to mention that. You were like, it meant nothing. It obviously meant nothing. You saw Jimmy Graham. He was like, yeah, I'm done. I'll see you later.
Oh, I will say this one last thing. They had a girl, Gabrielle Navia Green. She is 15 years old, and she was doing color commentary for Nickelodeon. That gives me extreme confidence that I can do anything in the sports broadcasting field.
Who would have thought?
That is awesome.
Growing up, you're like, oh, I want to be an ESPN broadcaster, broadcast for Fox. No, I want to be a broadcaster for Nickelodeon.
Man, I will say this. I heard a lot of, hey, it was so funny. I mean, it was good. People may say it's cringe, but you know what? I don't care. If you think it's cringe, switch to CBS, man. That's why CBS is there. Nickelodeon is for the kids. Let the adults be adults and let the kids be kids. And you know what? I wanted to be a kid. And I watched the entire game on Nickelodeon. I did not flip to CBS for not 1 second. I watched the entire game on Nickelodeon. I was really curious to see how they did this, dude. And you know what? I got to say, Nickelodeon is goated. And they got a lot of positive reviews out of it, too. Noah Eagle is the son of Ian Eagle, who just broadcasted the Colts-Bills playoff game. And Noah Eagle just did the Nickelodeon game the day after. So the Eagle family definitely has to be proud. And you know what? Nickelodeon should definitely look into doing this next year, because this was amazing. This was absolutely amazing.
My favorite part, and it was expected. I was expecting it. There was the referee was, give whatever, a false start or whatever, and then we heard some language on Nickelodeon, so very loud and clear as well. It wasn't even like some slight. No,
Cordell Patterson was heard loud and clear.
He sure was. All the kids heard him.
Oh my gosh. What the? And I'm just like, oh my goodness.
And then Nate Burleson, he was like, oh.
Nate was trying to keep it cheap.
Dude, I love Nate. Nate is such a good ambassador for the Lions, but also a good analyst as well.
Yeah, he did a great job. I mean, he really did do the heavy lifting in terms of the football analysis for Nickelodeon. That was goated. And then he did the pregame show all by himself too. That was goated. And they slimed Sean Payton, which was hilarious.
I saw
that was really hilarious.
And he got his shoes slimed. Dude, no. I couldn't do it.
Man, that is so raw, dude. And you know what? Last thing about this game, the game was, a team is sad when you talk about what television it was aired on, what TV network it was aired on, more so than the team's performance.
Yeah, that is very true. That is very true. Overall, I'm very unimpressed for sure.
Yeah, with both teams, really. But
yeah.
It's whatever. But you know what? I said that the Sunday slate was going to be better, but I think Saturday had some of the better action, some of the better games. That Colts-Bills game that I mentioned earlier I mean, that was heart attack worthy.
Yeah, I was getting a little nervous. I was like, oh no, we've seen this story, the Bills playing well the entire game and then lose on a Hail Mary. And that almost happened. If Phillip Rivers, had a little bit more strength, I know he's a little bit older. If he had a little bit more strength in that arm, they could have, had a Hail Mary. But I think the Bills learned to just get in front of the receiver, not play with them, and bat the ball down. But for the game, very, very good performance by the Bills. Josh Allen, such a good player. If this was the NBA, I would call him the most improved player because he was good last year. He was good last year. This year, he's on a whole nother level.
Last year, it was like, okay, he's starting to get there.
Promising.
And this year, we're talking about him trying to get on the same level as Mahomes, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. And it's just like, yeah, he definitely did take that next step. Josh Allen, you can say he did just enough, but you know what? The Colts are still a really good football team.
Yeah.
Even though they might not be the best, that is still a really, really good football team. All of their losses, except for the Week 1 loss to Jacksonville, came to playoff teams. So that is a really, really good Indianapolis Colts football team that they beat.
Yeah, not to mention, they had an entirely revamped defense and offense, basically. You're playing with, a first-year quarterback in the system in Phillip Rivers. I know, he worked with, kind of the offense and with the Chargers, I'll say. But, it was his first year with the Colts and they made the playoffs, and he was very, very successful. And that defense, that defense can definitely do some damage in, the years coming.
Yeah, and that gives me confidence that they can win the AFC. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty tough road, obviously, for anybody. But the Bills have shown they have gotten over the hump. Yeah, and I'm proud.
I am too. Who would have thought that we would have seen the Bills and the Browns win in the same weekend? Awesome.
A playoff game.
Awesome.
That is so nice. Now, the only thing that would have made it sweeter for the Bills is if it was against the Patriots. That would have been the only thing that would have made this so much sweeter. But you know what? The Colts are just as iconic of a franchise, maybe. So, that's not too bad either. But, no. Dude, they would have went stupid if it was the Patriots. Oh.
And the Bills Mafia was able to witness it live, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was nice, too. That was so good to see. Well, what was not good to see was the offense in the Rams-Seahawks game. Holy smokes. We said in our long-lost wild card predictions that whoever won this game was going to be the less inconsistent team.
Yeah.
And that team was the Rams. That Seahawks offense, oh my God. That was an inverse of the Bears. Their offense started out hot on clicking on all cylinders early in the season. And then as the season got on, defense started stringing it together. The defense started to put it together and get it together, getting stops, stop the scoring. And then the offense just disappeared.
In that playoff special, I said that if the Seahawks lose this game, that's just entirely embarrassing. And I will give them a little bit of credit because they didn't play John Wolford the entire game because, he got hurt and sent to the hospital. Hopefully he's doing well. But, Jared Goff came in and he took a little bit to get going, and rightfully so. He had a broken thumb. But after he got going, they kind of... They did better. They were able to win the game, obviously. But how the Rams have won these past few games have been by defensive touchdowns and field goals. That's kind of what it was.
That's their second pick six in the last two games. That defense is definitely helping out a lot. And in my opinion, that might be the best defense remaining in the playoffs. Yeah. I think that is the best defense remaining in the playoffs, without a doubt, because... Come on, man.
I think if you have Aaron Donald in your defense, it's going to be top 5. No matter who else you have. Aaron Donald can... I hate the bias towards offensive players in the MVP, but if this was a fair NFL, he should at least have one MVP because this dude is one of the best defensive players probably of all time, in my opinion, already.
Yeah, I mean, people don't look at stats like they should look at on-field performance, and it's just like the way that Aaron Donald gets treated with so much respect, game in and game out by these offensive linemen. It's just like, holy smokes. I mean, double teams and everywhere. And it's just like, you're not going to let Aaron Donald go one-on-one because you know he's going to smoke you. And people don't look at that. And obviously, you know, they look at quarterbacks and, you know, it's quarterbacks all the time, man. It's always the offensive guys that get so much credit. But when the defensive guys have a monster season, not just a Pro Bowl worthy season, I'm talking absolute insane stats. It's just like, you didn't.
Dude, and their Super Bowl run, he was playing out of his mind, and he still is. He still is a very, very good player. Like I said, one of the best, if not top 5 in the NFL right now. Very, very good player. And speaking of Aaron Donald, I mean, he got injured too. I mean, I don't think reports have come back of what happened. I think it's probably a rib injury. That's what it looked like. But hopefully he's good to go because they have a big matchup coming up.
Oh yeah, and yeah, that's definitely going to be big. But you know, that was pretty much pretty much overshadowed by the surprise game of the week. We saw this coming. Dude. We knew that the Buccaneers were not just going to blow out the Washington football team, because you know what? The Buccaneers always find a way to keep it close on prime. Well, now I won't say keep it close, but just don't have things immediately go their way on prime time. Holy smokes. Taylor Heineke, respect has been earned.
So if you guys didn't see my predictions, I had 3 very questionable picks. First, I picked the Washington football team against the Buccaneers, and then I picked the Bears, and then I picked the Browns. And all 3 of those had a very good chance to be correct, because what we saw from Washington was exactly what I expected. I didn't know that Alex Smith wasn't going to be playing, which was very unfortunate, especially 30 minutes before the game even started. And I feel like that definitely was a cause of, you know, why they lost. Definitely a big important, you know, decision. But what I saw from the football team was that they fight, and even though Taylor Heineke has only 1 start, I believe, he played like he was a seasoned veteran, and he looked very good. I mean, using his body, stretching out like he's Superman to get a touchdown in a very critical situation. He looked good. He was very impressive.
Yeah, threw for 300 yards and had probably one of the most hype rushing touchdowns I've seen all year from a quarterback. Like that was hype. The way he got that touchdown was so hype. He stretched that ball out. I didn't think he got in. I was like, oh, he just tapped that pylon. It looked so satisfying. And then they got up, Chase Young pointing at the back of his jersey, everybody mobbing him. I'm like, oh, this is lit. And Washington made it a game, man. They made it a game. They were down 9 early. I'm thinking they're gonna have to do something to not go down silently. And you know what? They didn't go down. They didn't go down without swinging. They had the ball, chance to tie the game, send it to overtime, and you couldn't ask for more from Taylor Heineke, especially when you score 23 points with this, you know, inconsistent offense. They have good players, but it's just inconsistent.
Yeah, and he even got hurt. He went back to the locker room or the medical place in the back of the stadium, and he was able to come back and still give it his all. Very insanely impressive performance by him. They were so close. I almost pulled off the upset.
Oh, that would have been insane. Bucks would have got clowned so hard.
I mean, I wasn't really that impressed with the Bucks either. I mean, I know they can do better, and they didn't play up to their standards, in my opinion.
Well, since you're talking so much about the NFC South not impressing you so much, let's go to that matchup that is next Sunday between those 2 very teams that you weren't very impressed by, the Bucks and the Saints. Let's make some picks, because this is where the real stuff happens.
All right, my dream is the Buccaneers. I know I'm kind of contradicting myself, but I think it would be pretty cool to see the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl, and that's why I'm gonna take them here. I am. It's very tough to beat a team 3 times in a season, and for the Saints, they haven't looked great. I feel like they've been way more inconsistent than the Bucks, and I know that the Bucks would still have another game to go if they win, but I want to see the Lightning, the Rays, and the Bucks all make their respective league championships. That would be awesome. And the Heat, Florida. I know not Tampa Bay, but wouldn't that be awesome? I want to see it. I want to see it.
That Florida would have been the state for pandemic sports. And that is the state.
Hey, it could still happen. We'll have to see. Dude, I don't know. I do think that the Bucks are an overall better team. I do like their offense as I don't like Gronk. Because Gronk, I mean, I always have to bring up the Lions in some way. Have you seen the clip where he was on Fox with, the analyst before Sunday afternoon football? Do you remember a story that he told?
No. I mean, I remember him being a part-time analyst, but I didn't remember what he said. Is it about the Lions?
He had one story where he was like, "Oh yeah, this one time, the Patriots actually traded me to the Lions, and I said if you make this trade go through, I'm gonna retire." So he said he would rather retire than get traded to the Lions, and then he comes out of retirement to play with Tom Brady in Tampa Bay. Okay, Gronk. Okay, and that's why he wasn't really that involved in the Washington game. I don't know. I'm kind of salty at that, Gronk. I mean, I feel like for the Bucks to be successful, they need to get Gronk incorporated into the offense a little bit more. I mean, Antonio Brown, he had a good game. He has played well. And, I mean, their offense is lethal. I think it could very well be up there with the Bills and the Chiefs. But I think their offense will overpower I wouldn't say struggling Saints defense, but definitely not great in my opinion. I think the Bucks will have a day on offense.
Yeah, and my thing is, like you said, tough to beat a team 3 times. And with the Saints right now, I thought they were gonna blow the Bears out of the roof when I heard that there was no Roquan Smith, no Jalen Johnson, no Buster Screen. We're having a lot of backups in. Duke Shelley's in, and our offense is our offense. And, especially Anthony Miller getting ejected. No Darnell Mooney. So I expected to get blown out by at least 24 points. At least. And you only made up half of that. And that's not, I mean, yeah, sure, it should have been 18, but it's still highly sus that you let the Bears hang with you for that long. And, I mean, letting this Bucks team come in. I mean, just look at the Bucks, man. They did it without Devin White. Devin White is their leading tackler, I believe, and their leader in sacks. So he didn't play in Washington. They get him back. Oh baby, I think he's gonna be sending pressure on Drew Brees all game, and that's gonna put a little more pressure on the Saints receivers to get open. Michael Thomas, yeah, he had some receptions and all that, but you know what? I mean, this Bucks defense is up and down. There's days where they get shredded. There's days where they lock up. And I think this is one of those days where they do just enough to get them over the top. I'm picking the Bucks too, man.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to bet against Tom Brady in the playoffs as well. But from what we've seen from the Saints in these past few years, they haven't been great in the playoffs. In my opinion, I think a few years ago, the Eagles should have. The Eagles, if it wasn't for an Alshon Jeffrey drop, the Eagles should have beat the Saints. Obviously, the Saints had the 2 heartbreakers against the Vikings, but they really haven't had great performances in the playoffs. Obviously, Tom Brady, Super Bowl champion multiple times. So I think that's another thing, another factor to bring into this game.
Yeah, definitely, man. I'm looking forward to it. Brady versus Breeze in the playoffs. Oh boy. Yeah, that's hype. That's automatic hype. I know they're going to milk the headlines of that like they did for Sunday Night Football. Hopefully, we get a better game.
Yeah. I definitely, I hope so.
All right, let's go to the other NFC matchup, which could potentially, I think I'm putting the Packers on upset alert, but I'm still going to pick the Packers, but I'm putting them on upset alert because they're playoff Packers, they've been a bit sus for the past decade.
Yeah. You know what? For the sake of disagreement, I've been bold these entire playoffs. I'm going to take the Rams for their defense because I know earlier in the season I talked bad about Jalen Ramsey, and he kind of proved me wrong because he has locked up players like DeAndre Hopkins and numerous other star wide receivers. Now
DK
he's
Metcalf.
DK Metcalf. Now he has a very intriguing challenge on his hands in Davante Adams, who probably this season, behind Stephon Diggs, has been, the second best wide receiver. I think that once again Jalen Ramsey will have, a little bit of a nod against, a star wide receiver, and Aaron Donald against a kind of banged up Packers O-line. I think they are going to give Aaron Rodgers a hard time. I think this defense is going to play real well, maybe even force some turnovers, because who knows what their offense is going to do. I mean, Cam Akers has been electric this entire season, great rookie. And, Jared Goff, it depends how well he's healing and how well he's made progress from that thumb. But I really do think defense is going to be a key here. That's why I'm going to take an upset, and the Packers are going to be going home. He's reconsidering. After I brought up the O-line. What is he going to do? Drum roll.
LA all the way.
He changes it up.
After I had completely forgot that they had lost David Bakhtiari. And obviously that's their man on the offensive line. And that's a tough loss. I mean, you can only protect Aaron Rodgers for so long before he has to scramble out into the abyss. And, I think the Rams can, get to him, at least pressure him, because I think teams are going to know how the Packers like to move the football.
Yeah, 100%.
They really do feed off of, just balance. They're balanced. And, they can run it with Aaron Jones. They can make you bite on the play action. They can toss that thing up to Davante Adams. They do everything pretty well. But you know what? It's probably not going to be about Davante Adams, because I think the other guys are going to have to step up. With Jalen Ramsey occupying him, I think I trust this. I think I trust the rest of the Rams secondary more than I do the rest of the Packers receivers.
Yeah.
And, they're going to really have to step up. And I just don't think the Packers receivers are exactly ready for that.
I mean, when you talk about a consistent offense in terms of, play calls and how they like to operate, that's really the Packers. They have been, very consistent in their play calling and stuff. And you mentioned scrambling. It's so annoying because it seems like every time Aaron Rodgers decides to scramble, it's like on a 3rd and 14 and he somehow picks up the first down. It is ridiculous. But that's what the Rams need to stop. They need to stop Aaron Rodgers, and I think they will with that injured, banged up O-line for the Packers.
Yeah, now Aaron Donald needs to get healthy.
Yeah.
I hope Cooper Kupp Cooper Kupp really, really, really needs to go to give them a big boost on offense. Just to occupy Jair Alexander or somebody. So because they got other receivers that they can throw it to. You know what I'm saying? They got a lot of guys. So yeah, that's the NFC side of things, man. And looks like we're hinting towards a Rams-Bucks rematch.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe we'll see. Now let's shift to the AFC, because this is where things got flipped on its belly.
I love it.
Oh, baby. So we got a Browns-Chiefs playoff game.
Dude, you don't know how bad I want to pick the Browns. I really do. I want to see them be successful in the playoffs, but I'm going to be honest, it's not going to happen. I'm sorry, Browns. It's not going to happen. I want to pick you. I really do, but I think at a point I have to be a little bit realistic, because the Chiefs, as good as the Browns looked, I still think the Chiefs are, a little bit, not even a little bit, a lot a bit better than the Browns, unfortunately. I mean, the Chiefs, they're just a great football team. They really are. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, coming back. He didn't play Week 17. Their offense is just so creative. And let's say the Browns get up late, and they're up late. It's going to be so hard to stop Patrick Mahomes, especially in those clutch situations, because that man is clutch. He knows how to perform under pressure. And I think he will have a day. I think he's going to have another good playoff game and advance, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially with the way that the Browns have been playing prevent defense. Yeah, that's if Ben Roethlisberger ate and got full, then Patrick Mahomes is going to feast and keep feasting.
Yeah.
You don't want to give Patrick Mahomes time. You gotta get him. You got to get him if you want a chance. But see, the motto for this game is root for the Browns, but bet on the Chiefs.
And that was my motto for the Rams and Seahawks as well. So I'm used to this. I've been doing it a lot, and the entire season with the Lions.
Yeah, you're right, dude. But this other AFC matchup is not as easy to pick. This Ravens-Bills game, I'm glad this is the Saturday night game and not the Saturday afternoon game. This deserves to be on NBC.
Yeah, I mean, did you notice that it's identical seedings in, both AFC and NFC?
Too.
So, the upset kind of happened in, both AFC and NFC. But this matchup is very intriguing. I don't know. I love the Bills. I think they are a fantastic team. I think they are number 2 behind the Chiefs, obviously, but in performance-wise as well. I really like the Bills. I really like what they did. I know they only won by a few points, but I think their offense is so impressive. And the Ravens, they had a very good defensive performance against Derrick Henry. I think that the Bills overall, not even their offense, because their defense is good as well. I just really, really like. I think the Bills are a complete team, in my opinion. I really do. I think they are complete in everything, both defensive, offensive, even special teams. Andre Roberts, really good kick returner, former Lion. I watched him, return a punt in person. He's a great player. I really do like the Bills. I mean, it's going to be tough stopping Lamar and his run game, but I think the Bills will be able to handle it and win the game.
I agree, and I say this for one reason and one reason only. I think Josh Allen is a better passer than Lamar Jackson.
100%.
And when it comes down to it, sometimes this might be a game where it comes down to living and dying by the air. And I mean, Lamar Jackson, he can do it on the ground, but there are still many questions as to if he can do it through the air. And I'm not saying he can't do it, but I just think that Josh Allen and the way that this Bills offense has been performing, okay, you can say they've been doing just enough to win, but when this offense gets going, man,
dangerous.
It's tough to stop them. And there's not really one, giant weakness in that Bills offense. I mean, the one glaring weakness for the Ravens is if they don't get the run game going, they're screwed when it comes to the passing game because they don't have, receivers like the Stephon Diggs or John Brown and guys like that. Josh Allen, it's like with the Bills, if you stop the run, they're passing. If you stop the pass, they're running. And I think that just makes them more complete than the Ravens. The Ravens are a complete team too, but the Bills are just more complete.
Really good
and
team.
I think they're going to go to the AFC Championship game.
I agree 100%. Really, really good matchup though.
Oh yeah. Either way, we're gonna get a really sexy AFC Championship game, no matter who advances.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be looking real nice, especially if it's in Buffalo.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude. Imagine Bills Browns. If that happens, dude, I wouldn't even know who to root for.
I gotta find a clip where I said that. If I said that live, I gotta find it. But I will say this: the Buffalo Bills will be, if that happens, the first team in NFL history to host 3 playoff games in the same postseason. 3.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it would. I mean, it's never been done before because of the extended format. Obviously, they hosted wild card, then they'll host divisional, which that's never happened before either until this year. Because usually when you're in the wild card, you're on the road the very next week, but that's not the case anymore. So yeah, man, it's a good time to be a football fan.
Exactly.
It's a really good time to be a football fan, man.
So much fun. So much excitement these past few weeks.
Okay, so the national championship is tonight. It's well, it's weird, but it is what it is. Alabama, Ohio State. Okay, I think I'm gonna pick Alabama. It's not even gonna be close.
I'm
And
gonna agree.
yeah, I mean, I've said it's not gonna be close, and the game turns out to be close, which is kind of why I'm saying that
Okay.
because I want a good game. But Alabama's gonna win. It's not even close. Not even close. Ohio State sucks. This is basically your pregame speech, Buckeyes fans. So listen up. The Buckeyes suck. They're number 11 in the country. You guys are trash. There's their pregame speech. That has to be their pregame speech because they really took it to Clemson when Dabo Sweeney ranked them 11.
Yeah, it's I don't know why players and coaches, obviously we saw Juju say the Browns is the Browns, and we saw how that turned out. Obviously Dabo said Ohio State's 11, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I know that you're trying to almost reverse jinx this game. I see an Alabama blowout as well, especially if Jalen Waddle is playing, and which it looks like he will suit up. Dude, this could be over quickly. I mean, I just don't see how the Ohio State defense will be able. I don't see how any defense in the entire country will be able to match up to Alabama. Their offense is godly, in my opinion. There's nothing you can do to stop it because they got the run game and the pass game. It's so impressive. Ohio State, good luck.
And Heisman Trophy winner Devontae Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that might be a preview for where he might be next year.
Yeah.
Could be a little preview. Which wouldn't that be funny? You play the national championship in the same stadium where the team you drafted plays. That would be raw.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to if the Bucks get to the Super Bowl, they'll be playing at their home stadium, almost like the Vikings the other year.
Yeah. Oh man, they were tantalizingly close. But yeah, dude, this is it for college football, man. It doesn't feel like it, but I mean, for major college football, I believe there's other things going on in the spring, maybe. We'll see if ESPN will have anything to do with that. But for now, this is it. Alabama and Ohio State. Yeah, these two fan bases, I think they're going to get at each other a little bit.
Yeah, a rematch. So, I mean, we know how the first time, ended. Gross.
Yeah. Yeah, this might not be the prettiest game to watch for you. Yeah.
No, it's terrible. It was the first time as well.
College hoops, bro. So the season just gets a little weirder and a little weirder and a little weirder.
No, I'm sorry, Kentucky fans. I said how bad you were, and then it seems like after I said that, Michigan State just started to, be garbage. So bad. So terrible. It's been tough. I have had no teams that have been successful since I don't even know when. It's been so long since I've even tasted a little bit of success. Michigan State looks bad, dropped out of the top 25, rightfully so. And we've seen teams continue to dominate like Gonzaga, and I'm happy for them. I really, really want to see them carry this on to the tournament.
Yeah, but this is kind of like your worst nightmare, because not only is Michigan State out the rankings, but you got all these Big Ten teams getting so much love, ranked below Minnesota, ranked below Ohio State, ranked below Illinois, below Wisconsin, who you did give them some of that jinx magic, overrated magic too, and of course the second highest ranked team in the Big Ten at number 7, Scum.
Okay, so you had to, say that, I kind of, gave Wisconsin, some motivation. I don't care. If this jinxes Michigan or if it backfires on me, I don't care. I still think they're overrated. Who have they played? We said this last time. They haven't played anyone. Michigan, until they play a team like Wisconsin or Iowa, I think Michigan State can beat them.
Well, you'll see that tomorrow.
Yeah,
As Wisconsin plays Michigan tomorrow.
I know, and
so
yeah.
you'll definitely see who's more overrated in your eyes.
I should be more nice on Wisconsin because they are a good team, very experienced. It's crazy. Demetrius Trice, that dude is like 24. It's unfair. He's been there forever. You know, his brother Travis Trice, Michigan State, took him to the Final Four. Respect to, the Trice family, but dude is 24. Wisconsin's cheating.
Yeah, that's freaking crazy. I think his brother, his other brother went to HF, and I had a class with his sister.
Oh, really?
If I remember correctly.
That's cool.
So I have experience. I've been around with a couple of prices.
That's cool. That's actually very interesting.
Yeah, but dude, there's obviously some uprising teams too, man. Bro, how about them Longhorns?
Yeah, they are good. I mean, it seems like every season they're always going to be up there, and then they kind of struggle towards the end of the season. This season they look very good, and they look like they're here to stay, in my opinion.
Yeah, that win over West Virginia was hype.
Impressive, very impressive.
Yeah, and West Virginia is not a bad team at all. That is not a bad basketball team by any means. That is a really good basketball team, and for Texas to win in that fashion, finishing the game on a 7-0 run, hitting the game-winning three, dude. That is absolutely amazing. And you know what? You got to tip your hat to the Longhorns, man. Shaka Smart is building some over there. And now, they may not be back in football, but they're bad.
No, you might jinx them.
Okay. Maybe I should withhold that, because next thing you know, Oklahoma will win the Big 12 or something.
Exactly. And Texas won't win another game for the rest of the season. It's crazy. What else is crazy is that we have St. Louis in the top 25.
Man, what is this? And then obviously Missouri's in there too a little bit, and then UConn.
I saw them in the top 15 the other day. I was like, huh? Missouri? They haven't really been good. I mean, they had Michael Porter Jr., but even with him, they weren't good.
I mean, they beat Illinois.
That is a very impressive win, but still, it's weird to see.
Yeah, I know, right? But you know what? That's college basketball, man. This is what we've become accustomed to for the past couple of years, with these random teams jumping into the top 20, top 25, top 15. I mean, just absolutely out the blue random. Basically, that Michigan jump opened my eyes forever. That opened my eyes forever.
I still think it was the worst move of all time. It's terrible. You can't do that. They have to prove themselves. And sure, like I've said this last time, I'm not even going to repeat myself. They really need to have some quality wins before you get ahead of yourself.
Yeah, you're right. You're not lying about that. I definitely do agree. But you know what? College basketball has been delivering so far. On the side with when playoff football is not on. And you know what? Hey, when football's over, that's the one thing we're going to be having our eyes glued on, my guy.
100%, dude. It's going to be a very interesting finish, I will say. A lot of random teams, like we just said. Very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm. The NBA is starting to get themselves into a doozy of a pickle right now with, the same thing that stopped last season, COVID.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm really not surprised because I will say, though, that I do think the NBA, out of any other sport, has taken the most precautions, and rightfully so. Having players even contact tracing, if like a player, like what we saw, Seth Curry on the Sixers, ended up getting COVID, and then every single player that has gotten near him on another team has to sit out three or 4 games, which is very kind of crazy, but definitely necessary if you want to have a season go longer than a few months, right? So I do think they're taking the right precautions. They are very strict, but I feel like if they continue to take these precautions, the NBA is gonna work, but it's looking kind of shaky right now.
Yeah, and another thing that kind of has me worried is obviously the home markets and the lack of a bubble.
Yeah.
Obviously, come playoff time, there's going to have to be some serious reconsideration about going, from home market to home market for the playoffs. And I mean, yeah, it's the same two teams playing, but I mean, for an extended period of time, I should say. But man, if you're having COVID issues in the playoffs,
Yeah.
like you didn't have in the bubble, that's gonna be messed up. That's gonna be messed up, dude.
Yeah, I will say, though, I will give the NBA a little bit of slack because all these positive tests are coming back less than a week after New Year's and Christmas. But before then, they had, I think, over 400 tests with zero positive COVID tests. So I'm guessing most of these positivity rates are from, the holidays and being around more family than usual, which makes sense. But again, if you want to have a successful season, you got to control that, and you gotta be kind of wary and careful with how you spend your off days.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to watch your step.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, as for the actual on the court, production, I mean, teams are still starting to surprise me. I thought the Magic were going to absolutely collapse, which they still haven't won a game. I believe they haven't won a game since the ACL tear of Markelle Fultz. But for some reason, they are still in the top 4 in the East in the standings. That should change tonight once we lose to the Bucks. But still some teams. We are still seeing some weird teams on the rise. Is LaMelo Ball really going to take the Hornets places? Are the New York Knicks for real? Are the Cleveland Cavaliers for real? Are the Raptors really this bad?
I was just about to mention the Raptors because what is going on? From my understanding, they have almost every single player healthy. Sure, they lost Marc Gasol, but they also gained Aaron Baines, who was very, very good with the Suns last year. A very, very solid center. But what is going on in Tampa Bay? I mean, what is it? It's crazy. I mean, did you see what happened last night in their loss to the Warriors?
Oh my gosh! You foul him on a 3-pointer, and then Pascal Siakam misses the game winner.
Not even just the foul, but what was Pascal Siakam doing? He did a 360 at the top of the key. A 360 for what reason? For 2 seconds left, and he decides to do a 360. And I mean, he almost made it.
The shot looked so awkward, though, man.
I know.
I'm looking at it like, what kind of shot was that? And it almost went, like you said, if he would have made that, he would have looked like goated.
He's getting clowned. It's like me if I spun around in this chair. That's what the shot looked like. If I spin all the way around and then took a shot, that's what his I don't even know, spinning jumper looked like.
Yeah, I don't even know what to call that. A hook jump.
It was
shot,
ugly. It was ugly.
180. I don't know. At this point, I don't know, man. But you know what? After a rough start, Golden State, hey, they're starting to climb the standings. People thought they were going to be trash after getting blown out by the Nets and barely winning against the Bulls and this. Hey, they are in the thick. They are back in the thick of this Western Conference playoff race. And you know what? It's getting thicker because the game of the week last week was definitely Nuggets and the Mavericks. I watched that game. It was absolutely amazing. And Doncic and Jokic went crazy. I don't know if you saw it, but man, that was such a great game to watch. It was the best basketball game I watched all year.
Yeah, 2 players that are surely the future of the NBA. 2 potential MVP candidates, in my opinion. But I want to go back to the Warriors. I hate when people like to, say Draymond's a bad player. He doesn't do much. I would consider that Draymond Green is almost equally as important to the Warriors as Steph Curry. Why? He is the glue man. We saw, because he was injured when they were struggling. He was out for probably the first week and a half of NBA basketball in their season. When he comes back, look how good they performed. He literally he is the person on the floor that conducts everything. Steph Curry, with Draymond, they can be successful. I mean, we saw in the playoffs the other year, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant were all hurt. Draymond was the only one playing, and they still kept it competitive because Draymond does that much on the floor to help a team be that successful with his defense, his basketball IQ. I know he may not be the flashy shooter like James Harden or any other, elite scorer or player in the league, but Draymond does a lot for the Warriors and is a very key part of their success.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you know what? If they make the playoffs, if they keep playing like this, man, don't just count them out, man, because they got some good wins. That 22-point comeback against the Clippers, which what's new with the Clippers nowadays, it's just like, man, that opened everybody's eyes. Like, okay, Curry still got it. And the Clippers still they still have a problem of blowing double-digit leads, which it's like every time I see a basketball game nowadays, it's like somebody has a double-digit lead and they lose it.
Yeah, you told me that, and I really wish you were watching the Pistons-Bucks series. But it's all right, because other than that game that I mentioned, the Pistons have kept it within 10 in every single one of their games. They have 2 wins, but they've kept it within 10, and that's as much as you can ask for in a rebuilding young team.
Took a page out of the Tigers book from last
Yeah.
or the season before, I should say. I can't wait to see these standings shape out. It's always fun to watch, the teams that you don't usually see have success. Just not just in the NBA, but across any sports. You see with the Browns, the Bills, you saw it with some of the NHL teams, like the Canucks. Well, I won't say they haven't had, any success whatsoever, but, obviously they're not, blue blood. It's just great to see across the world of sports.
I 100% agree.
All right, let's get to MVPs and LVPs. Who is your MVP? Not MVP, the MVP.
You don't know how bad I wanted to pick the Browns, but I've been picking teams as of recent, and I feel like that'd be too basic because they're not only, special in my heart, but I think they're the entire country's MVP. So that's why I did not pick the Browns for my MVP. They were close though. One player I do want to highlight, this is me being, biased and, kind of me being the Pistons fan that I am. I'm going to pick Jeremy Grant as my MVP because this dude is easily a most improved player candidate. Let me read you his past 9 games of the season, right? 28 points, 10 rebounds, 64 field goal percentage. Okay? That's pretty good. 27, 6, 45%. 27, 7, 42. 24, 4, 37. 22, 6, and 50. 24, 4, and 40. 31, 10, 45. 31, 10, 66. 28, 447. This dude is on a hot streak. He has 9 consecutive 20-plus point games with his career high being 31. This dude is going off. This was an absolute steal for the Pistons. The league should be on alert for Jeremy Grant. And one thing I do want to say, I respect Jeremy Grant for not only coming to the Pistons, but if you guys saw in the offseason, Jeremy Grant was offered the same exact amount of money from the Nuggets. So if people want to make the argument, he left a winning season for money. That's absolutely not the case. He wanted to come to Detroit to play for Troy Weaver, Dwayne Casey, in a hardworking city, and he has proven why he deserves every cent that the Pistons paid him in the offseason.
That reminds me of when I named Austin Rivers my MVP. And, he's like, he didn't take the money to go play for a super team that was already stacked enough without him. And, he decided to take his talents to a team that didn't have much and try to turn something minor and make it something major. Maybe that's not the case for Jeremy Grant this year. But you know what? If he sticks around and these Pistons develop in the next few years, man, that's a good player to build around if he keeps playing like this.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny you mentioned Austin Rivers days after he had a game-winning 3. So you gave him some good luck, some good morale.
Yeah, I know, right? That's absolutely insane. But my MVP has to go to Baker Mayfield of the Cleveland Browns. I know you said that you don't want to, generalize just the Browns because that's America's MVP for real. So I decided to get a bit more specific. I want to highlight Baker Mayfield in particular, not just because he is the man in Cleveland now. Like, how LeBron was the king of Cleveland? Yeah, that torch has been passed to Baker Mayfield. That man is the man of Cleveland. He is the king of Cleveland right now. That 6, you're going to see 6s all over Cleveland. You would have thought it was Toronto if you would have stepped foot in Cleveland with all those 6s. And, man, Baker Mayfield, he made the plays that he needed to make. He converted big third downs. The ball was in his hands when the Browns were kind of starting to choke and the Steelers are trying to come back. And you know what? He made the plays. Who threw that touchdown pass to put the Browns up for good, to put them up 42-23 and separate them even more? That was Baker Mayfield off of a screen pass. So, Baker Mayfield, he made the plays when he needed to. You can give credit to the defense. You can definitely give credit to the running backs. But you know what? You got to give credit to Baker Mayfield for holding it all down because, man, the Browns definitely should not have won that game. It all starts with the quarterback position. And you know what? Baker held it down. He made sure he got the job done. There is no doubt anymore. People want to say, well, he's not gonna win in Pittsburgh. He's not a playoff winner just yet. He ain't it. He's it. He's it. We're not even playing tag. He's it.
Hey, Johnny Manziel didn't even make the playoffs. Baker did his third year.
Baker Mayfield is my MVP from giving the Browns their first win in over a year to taking his team to the playoffs to beating the big bad boy Pittsburgh Steelers. Browns fans couldn't be any happier unless they win the Super Bowl. Of course.
Even I'm happy. Even I'm happy, and I'm not even a Browns fan. I love it.
Yeah, dude. So Baker Mayfield, my MVP. But I have a bad feeling that there's going to be an LVP connected to my MVP. Drew?
Yeah, mine may be connected to yours as well because mine is Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm sorry, I was a big Juju fan before this season, but dancing on the logos, and he couldn't even back it up. He had a good game last night, but again, saying the Browns is the same Browns, and then proceeding to, get absolutely blown out. I don't care how close the score was. In reality, if you watch the game, that game was over after the first quarter. Juju, he was talking too much all the season, making too many TikToks, not focused on his game, and look what happens. Unfortunate.
Yeah, that was absolutely bad. That was bad, man. I mean, you would have thought he would have learned his lesson by talking crap and doing crap on the Bengals logo. You would have thought that he would have learned his lesson. And I mean, he got off the TikToks, but man, I bet you he won't be opening his mouth to the media like he was this season. Next season, it's because you got your butt handed to you, man. You got your butt handed to you, and it didn't look good.
No.
Yeah, you had a great game last night. I will admit, 10 receptions, 170 yards and stuff like that, touchdown maybe. But
all those performances don't matter if you don't win the game, right? That's what we said earlier.
Yeah, and you said the Browns is the Browns, not this corner is this corner, and I can dominate this corner. It's I mean, when you put the burden on 52 other guys to get on your level in terms of performance, that's a lot of pressure, and some guys don't live up to it. And you know what? I'll say this, man. For my LVP, and this leads me right into my LVP. Steelers fans, my LVP goes to the entire Pittsburgh Steelers fan base. Do you know how much crap was talked by this fan base when they were 11-0? It was already bring on the Chiefs in the AFC Championship in Pittsburgh. Was good. We want the smoke. Our defense is going to stop Mahomes. You're going to get smoked. Mahomes ain't like that. Yeah.
Proceed to go.
So you lost to the Washington football team. Okay. Still have faith. You lost to the Buffalo Bills. Okay, the Buffalo Bills are a really good football team. We're going to smoke the Bengals on Monday Night Football. This is our wake-up call. This is the wake-up call. We've had 2 wake-up calls. We're definitely going to get smoked by the Bengals. Okay. You're going to Indianapolis. You're going into the Indianapolis game, and your hand is nearly on the panic button because the Browns are breathing on your neck for that division title. Okay, you beat the Colts. Yay, we're good again. Yeah, we like that. We like that. Now it's time to kick the Cleveland Browns out the playoffs. Let's go. Okay, yeah, 1 good quarter against the Colts. Didn't prove too much. I mean, the Colts still, that's a really good football team. Okay, but they turned out to be not all that either. And then you go out and you lose to the Browns week 17 with your JV team, who apparently did better than the V team. And obviously the Steelers fans were all like, okay, Browns, you can have this. We'll give you this. But you're not beating us in Pittsburgh. You're not beating us in Pittsburgh. That's basically what the Browns just did last night. They absolutely clapped y'all, and now there's nothing more. There's nothing else left to say.
That's essentially what I said with Juju. I mean, you're talking when you're undefeated, very weak undefeated, I should say, and you go 1-5 after. So, yikes.
Yeah, and I'm starting to think that Chase Claypool is unfortunately starting to follow in his footsteps, because I've seen a couple of YouTube videos, man. I mean, he's a pretty decent YouTuber, but man, he's got to be a better football player.
He was making TikTok a lot of TikToks as well, and I saw a meme where it was like, imagine having more TikToks than catches.
That's tough, because we know how good these guys can really be. We know these guys can be great at their maximum potential. We've seen Chase Claypool go off early in the season. We're thinking Offensive Rookie of the Year by default. Then Justin Jefferson busted onto the scene, and Chase Claypool kind of, and it was just like, oh my goodness. Like, it was frustrating, even though I at times was rooting against the Steelers, because I know how good they could be if they would put in all the focus and all the work towards winning football games and not just improving their own brand. Now, the logo dancing, I approved of it, but man, you got to back it up. Exactly. I would approve of logo disrespect if you go out and win the football game. And not only, and it's funny because Von Bell absolutely smoked him near the logo.
And before the game, Von Bell he was like, oh, he's gonna get what's coming to him. 2 hours later, we saw what happened.
Yeah, so the LVP goes to the Steelers fans, because all season they were trying to deny the fact that they were frauds. And you know what? People were saying they were going to go one and done as soon as they lost to the Washington football team. As soon. No, actually, the stuff that started it was when they played absolutely poor against the Baltimore Ravens. Still won the game. But man, I think that Baltimore Ravens game, the second one, was definitely the one that sparked their downfall, because the Ravens were shorthanded like crazy.
Frauds.
And it took third stringer, Trace McSorley, and Trace McSorley, that man almost won the game. He almost could have won the game. If he would have got the ball back, it would have been heart attack. People would have realized it sooner, and that would have been that. But you know what? I did have a trivia question about the NFL playoffs. I asked you, what was the first NFL playoff game that was played after I was born?
Well, today's your birthday, so happy birthday, Jonathan, right?
Thank you.
After I said the Patriots, and you said it may feature two teams that are actually in the playoffs this year, so I know my guess is wrong.
Yeah, you have any other guesses? At least one team. Any other guesses?
Is the team? Is it a team that's still in the playoffs right now?
No, actually, as a matter of fact, neither of them are in it. Neither of them. They both got knocked out in the wild card.
Okay, so if it's not the Patriots, it has to be the Colts. Colts and who else? No? All right, let's see.
The first playoff game that was played after I was born on Saturday, January 11th, 2003, was Steelers-Titans.
I would have never guessed that, honestly. I wouldn't have.
Really?
No. That's I was thinking, the Colts and the Patriots, because obviously Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, but instead,
yeah, early thousands.
Still, it's not what I expected.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, I probably didn't expect it either. I mean, that was very intriguing. It's like Steelers-Titans in the playoffs. Like, that was the first playoff game that was played after I was born, and that game was played the day I was born. I was born like early morning, like maybe 4 o'clock, in the morning, and obviously the playoff games are played in 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and so it was like, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
And the two playoff games that were the last two playoff games that were played before I was born. It's funny. It was the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was the Browns and the Steelers, and then it was the Giants and the 49ers, that insane comeback.
That is odd. That's odd.
Yeah, pretty interesting if I do say so myself.
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely didn't expect this.
Now, I probably jinxed the Steelers and the Titans by mentioning them in the trivia question. Like, what was the last game played in the playoffs before that? Yeah, then next thing you know, they're out of the playoffs. Both of them.
Yeah, I think that proves that, jinxing works.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, that's my trivia question, man. How about you? You got one up your sleeve?
Mine is, it could also jinx, but jinx for the better. It's a Michigan State basketball question. So, my question is, in the last 10 years, Michigan State University has the third most wins over ranked teams with how many? How many wins over ranked teams has Michigan State had over the past 10 years?
Okay, yeah, this is a real test because I only paid attention to college basketball for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and
okay.
Just think about how tough Michigan State schedules usually are, playing teams like Duke in the Champions Classic, maybe even going to Maui and playing other teams that are ranked. It's interesting. Yeah, it definitely is.
It's always at least one in that Champions Classic.
All right, I'll give you a hint. Definitely double digits.
Okay. I know it has to be double digits. If it wasn't double digits, I know you would be miserable.
Over the past 2 years, I'm gonna assume that it definitely is more than 10. So if that helps.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's got to be up there, but definitely not down there either. I'm gonna have to think about it because there's been amount of college basketball trivia that we've had that has just been absolutely insane. Probably most recently with my my rankings breakdown of unranked wins over top 25 teams and stuff like that. College basketball brings up some pretty crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, always.
Yeah, dude. But we talked about a lot, and you know what? One thing that we didn't mention, hey, NHL coming back, man. Wednesday.
And you know that your jersey plays my jersey on Thursday, right?
Oh my gosh. How ironic is that? That's amazing. Maybe Red Wings 3-2 or something like that.
Dude, oh my gosh. That's so, I saw that on the schedule. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's actually crazy."
The season opener is Red Wings Hurricanes. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, hey, when we get back, we're only going to have NHL, NBA, and college basketball, so kind of sad.
Yeah, it's not as insane as it was back in the fall, but you know what? Things are getting back to normal just a little bit in terms of scheduling.
Yeah, and don't worry, the episode lengths will get shorter from here on out. No more 1 hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna have fun time stamping this one.
Yeah, good luck. Same time next week.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. If you guys enjoyed, give us that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, whatever you use to listen to Top of the Standings. Give us a like, subscribe, and a comment on YouTube if you're watching us on YouTube. And make sure to follow us on our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The big three as usual. This has been Top of the Standings, episode 22. Wow. And we will see you guys next Monday because of the NFL on Saturday. Peace.